Hello my sweet friends, and welcome back to my YouTube channel for another Simon Hurley Create video. Today we are going to be using the Lunar paste again, but let's talk about the products we are using. This is the sketched background, and I love that stamp. We also have the Sentimental flowers. It just goes so beautifully with that background. And then we have the pastes that I've chosen. We have Bee Sting, Slippery When Wet, and Clear Skies. And if you haven't seen this stuff before, this is magical. It's shimmery and beautiful, and I love it. And then we also have a couple pieces of Stark White Cardstock by Simon Hurley Create. So I am going to stamp that background onto that piece of Simon Hurley Create Stark White Cardstock, but I have to take out the insides of my MISTI to do so. I'm going to close the door of the MISTI, pick up the red rubber stamp, and then I'll put a little bit of washi tape behind my paper. I just want to make sure it doesn't go anywhere in case I need to stamp again. But I am going to heat emboss this, so before we do that, I will grab out my magic powder bag, put that all over my paper, sweep away any of the excess powder with my sweep brush, and then we're going to pull out some clear embossing ink. Now this will be hard to tell on your paper if you've actually gotten good coverage. So make sure your ink pad is nice and juicy, and then put a lot of good pressure down. The great thing about red rubber is it has a tendency to stamp really very clearly, so it's pretty good. Now this is the test. I will cover this with some clear embossing powder. You could use white if you have that as well, but I'm choosing clear because I really want that stark white cardstock to show through. I'll cover that, the whole panel, and then I'm going to heat set that till that is smooth and melted. And to save you from the bore, I'm going to just show you a little bit here, but you're not going to be able to see much until I hold it up in the light. And then you can see that it did stamp pretty well. All right, now I'm going to do ink blending, but not with ink. We're going to do it with the Lunar paste. And I have a special blending foam for each one of my colors. So I'll put that foam onto my tool, grab a little bit from the cap, tap it down onto my glass mat, and then I'm going to start blending. I'm going to blend all around this panel, but I am trying to avoid the centers of my flowers. This Lunar paste is almost like a paint, but it does resist the embossing. I've noticed if you blend it out pretty well and push, it will resist the embossing, which is nice, or the embossing will resist the paste, one or the other. But all I'm doing is trying to avoid those centers of those flowers and just blending around very cautiously. And it's not a perfect blend around. Some areas it's a little darker, and some areas it's a little lighter. Some areas I did go over that center just a little bit, but it really doesn't bother me. You'll see how this will turn out, and I'm actually pretty happy with it. So when I'm done blending with the Bee Sting, I'm going to just kind of show you how shimmery that is, and then I'll clean up my mess. And to do this, because I like to keep those foams, I want to make sure they don't get crusty, I clean them off on a paper towel, and then I'll just use a little bit of water on my glass mat to clean up the rest. Yeah, I'm trying to make those blending foams last as long as possible. I assume I will have to at some point replace them, but for now they're working great. All right, now we'll grab out the Slippery When Wet, and I'll do the same process, just trying to keep it kind of on the edge of my blending brush and blending over those centers. It is going to overlap a little bit. It doesn't change the color underneath because that's already dry, but it will lay on top of that. And you'll notice later on that they layer pretty good. So then I'm kind of just rubbing away to make sure that the embossing will show through pretty well, and it does. But be careful where you put it, because once it's down there, it is down there. And I like that. I love how shimmery it is, and it's so, so pretty. All right, now I'm going to stamp out my sentiment. And again, that sentiment comes from the Sentimental flowers. I have a piece of black cardstock that I use my magic powder bag on. I'm going to pick up the stamp and stamp using that juicy embossing ink one more time. I'm going to stamp two sentiments because I did end up making two cards. And I didn't show you the making of both cards because it's the same exact process, just using different colors. So we've got both of those. We're going to heat set that till that is smooth and melted. And then once that is all smooth and melted, we'll let that dry just a little bit, and then we'll cut these out just using my guillotine trimmer. All right, our card bases are some green cardstock that I had in my stash. This was cut down to 8.5 inches by 5.5 inches, and then I'll score it at 4 1/4. And then we will attach down our panel to our card base, leaving a green border on the left and right hand side. Next, I've put some foam tape on the back of our sentiments, and then we'll attach those sentiments down to the front of our cards. And then I can't stop there. I do decide to pull in some Nuvo Gold Luxe Dream Drops, just to put a few, and it matches that Slippery When Wet just beautifully. And you'll notice the Clear Skies one, I think that one's really pretty as well. And once we're done with that, I'll tap these down just to make them look a little bit more like enamel dots. And then that's going to do it for our cards today, folks. I sure hope you liked them. If you did, please hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thanks for all the commenting and the liking and subscribing, everything you guys do. You guys are awesome. And I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.